Are there any examples of increased spending on public education in the past that have led to improved results in education for Texas, in your opinion? Let me say that again. All candidates will answer this question with the same 45-30 rule that we had before. Are there any examples of increased spending on public education in the past that have led to improved results in education for Texas, in your opinion? So the first 45-second answer is going to go to Mr. Davis here at podium 1.
Yes, I believe they have improved in the CATE area and in robotics area, things like that, and in the collegiate area for high school students. So by them increasing those funds, now a kid can go to high school and walk out with an associate's degree, or they can walk out with a certification in a job that they can go right into. So they're workforce ready, and that's what we're teaching in public school. And so that's the positive that I see out of the funds. I see some negatives, but that is the positive that's come out of the extra money.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Now, Mr. White, you will have the second answer to this question about past examples of increased funding.
Sure. 1985, House Bill 72. It was fought for by my father, Mark White. We raised taxes. Texas raised taxes. But we also increased teacher salaries, increased or decreased class sizes, and instituted no pass, no play, in addition to a lot of other great things in education. So that actually was the last time we had comprehensive education reform in Texas, 1985. Since then, it's just deteriorated, and we're spending less and less every year. So it's time to invest in education in Texas once again. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Payne will provide the third answer on this question about increased funding.
I'm not understanding how I can answer that when we haven't. Since, what, 1985? We've decreased spending. We haven't increased it. So how did an increased spending benefit? It hasn't, because we haven't spent the money. And I guess I'll just say that for 30 seconds. We haven't increased the spending. There, okay, repeat. There you go. There has been no benefit. Our educational system has dropped from the top 5 to almost the bottom 5. That's how bad we have gotten. And 4 years ago, we were promised by our governor that we would have a world-class education and we would be #1 in education. Well, I guess he meant we were going to be #1 on the worst list, because that's where we're headed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Payne. And finally, we're going to have 45 seconds for Mr. Osaguda at podium 5.
I agree we need comprehensive education reform, but let me tell you, no pass, no play, I took that from a different position, okay? You took minority athletes out of organized athletics, and you gave them and pushed them into alternative families, okay? This was my reality. In my reality, the way I address no pass, no play is I let football players cheat off my exam because I wanted to keep them on the field. Okay? That's a different reality. So if you're going to talk about comprehensive, did we talk about any other resources that could have gone to help support parents? Did we talk about truancy and how we're going to get these kids back in the classroom? We have to talk about realistic solutions, and yeah, we're going to have to address the funding side of it. But please, understand, sometimes the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and some of these policies have very detrimental impacts on communities of color and socioeconomically depressed areas.
All right, thank you, candidates. And now we're going to have a second round. We have 30 seconds to talk further on the question of education. And so we return again to Mr. Davis at podium 1, 30 seconds.
Okay, talked about since 1985. As an educator in the classroom, I disagree, okay? They have increased money into the P-TECH and the VOTEX and all those things. Overall, yes, there are some weak spots in there, but the question was, the money that they put in haven't increased. Yes, they have in that particular area because technology has changed since 1985. Second of all, the problem is with the STAR test, 3rd through 6th, they only test once. 6th, all the way to high school, they get 3 shots at that apple. So of course the score is going to go up higher with the STAR test because they're getting training and tutoring. At the lower level, that's what's making us 43 on the list, the way they're doing the STAR test.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. White, you have an additional 30 seconds.
Yeah, today in the conversation that we're having on the statewide level, Governor Abbott has a plan, right? His plan to fix education and fix the property tax problem that we have and the healthcare problem we have is to cap property taxes at 2.5%. Right? That's like putting a Band-Aid on a heart attack victim, right? It's not going to work. We have to fix the underlying problem underneath the property taxes, which is education and healthcare, right? So we have to put money back into education again. When we do that, we'll fix our property tax problem. It's a complicated issue. There's a lot to talk about, and it certainly takes more than 30 seconds, but it has to do with money.
All right, we're going to have to leave it at that. And Mr. Payne, you are going to have 30 seconds as well to talk further about education.
Although I agree with you, Cedric, we have increased spending in a couple of areas, but what we've done is decrease spending by about $30 billion in the K through 12. So once they get to the programs you're speaking of, they're not educated. They are not receiving the education they need in order to go to the programs that you're speaking about with a good background, with a good academic background. And when that happens, what are we truly preparing them for? So yes, we increased spending on a couple of programs on the higher level, but when you've decreased it to the billions of dollars, stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Now, 30 seconds to Mr. Oseguda.
Thank you. Let's rephrase this question. What if we were to ask, is there any goodwill that could be had by corporate America reducing excessive profits? Rather than asking us to reduce our educational budgets, we don't want to attack this. So we're going to tell you about a funding source, franchise tax. It's a possibility. You can do it, and you can make exemptions for businesses that don't have significant margin. But every policy solution that you've heard here today is about closing loopholes, which are costing us millions of dollars in legal fees, because that's how we got into this mess to begin with, in terms of that loophole. And also taxing those populations through gambling and other things that can least afford those types of taxes. So we have to go after what we're going after. Where are those excessive profits? They exist in our economy. We need to find them.